When we look at the destructive acts of violence committed by religious extremists, it raises an uncomfortable question. How can someone claim to follow a perfectly loving God, yet act with malice and hatred? To the outside world, these actions don't look like divine guidance at all. They look exactly like the influence of a demonic force, like the work of Satan. But what if we're looking at this paradox backward? What if these devoted individuals aren't misunderstanding their religion, but following its instructions perfectly? To figure this out, we must look past modern interpretations and go straight to the source. We need a direct side-by-side comparison of exactly how Allah and Satan are described in the Qur'an, specifically regarding misguidance, hatred, and deception. By auditing the specific language of the text, we can determine if a clear behavioral line actually exists between divine justice and what we call demonic influence. Let's start with the most basic assumption about Satan. His stated mission is deception. He openly declares that he wants to lead humanity away from the truth. The text is explicit about this. In Surahs An-Nisa 119 and Sa'd 82, Satan openly vows to arouse sinful desires and mislead them all. That makes sense for the ultimate enemy. However, the Quran repeatedly states that Allah himself acts as an active agent of misguidance. According to Surah Az-Zukhruf 36, if someone turns away from the truth, Allah doesn't try to win them back. Instead, he actively assigns a devil to accompany them and deepen their misguidance. Surah Fatir 8 makes this even more direct. Allah intentionally sends astray whom he wills, and once he does, the text guarantees they will have no guide. Think about an ordinary human parent. If a child strays, a parent tries everything to guide them back. By the standards laid out in this text, a normal human shows far more mercy than the divine creator, who actively accelerates a person's path to hell. This shared behavior pattern moves from the individual to the societal level, specifically in how groups of people are instructed to interact with one another. Surah Al-Ma'idah 91 warns believers that Satan uses vices like intoxicants and gambling to cause animosity and hatred among people. Sowing division is framed as the ultimate satanic evil. Yet later in that exact same chapter, Allah claims responsibility for doing the exact same thing on a permanent scale. In Surah Al-Ma'idah 14, Allah declares because Christians forgot part of their covenant, he caused animosity and hatred among them until the day of resurrection. A few verses later, in Surah Al-Ma'idah 64, this exact same enduring enmity and hatred is planted by Allah in the hearts of the Jews. The scriptural outcome is identical in both cases. You have an active force planting hatred to divide humans. When Satan does it, it's condemned as demonic evil. When Allah does it, it's presented as divine justice. That brings us to deception. Satan is famous for using illusions, trickery, and false promises to trap his victims. But the Quran assures believers that they don't need to worry too much about this. The text explicitly dismisses the plots of Satan as weak. However, the text frames Allah's relationship to deception in a way that directly contradicts this weakness. The Arabic term is makr, meaning plotting, scheming, or deception. In Surah Al-Anfal 30, the text states that while disbelievers scheme, Allah also schemes. In fact, it declares him the best of those who plot. We universally recognize deception as the hallmark of a villain. So why does this text praise the divine creator for being the superior deceiver? If Satan and Allah share the exact same playbook, misleading people, sowing hatred, and relying on deception, we have to ask the ultimate question: who is truly authorizing Satan's evil in the first place? The Quran doesn't hide the answer. Allah is the one who deliberately creates, appoints, and empowers these dark forces to operate. Look at Surah Al-An'am 123. It states, Allah deliberately places the greatest criminals in every city to conspire. Furthermore, Surah Al-Baqarah 253 confirms conflict and bloodshed happen only because Allah explicitly wills it, choosing not to stop the division. Satan doesn't act on his own. His deceptive, hateful agenda is fully orchestrated by the top of the chain of command. He is merely a weaponized tool serving the ultimate architect's plan. Which brings us right back to our opening dilemma. Why do deeply religious believers sometimes commit acts that look exactly like the work of Satan? The highest goal of any devoted believer is to emulate and perfectly obey their Creator. So when extremists sow hatred, rely on deception, and create violent division, they aren't failing to understand their faith. They are executing it perfectly, mirroring a God whose recorded actions are indistinguishable from Satan's.